appreciate everybody being here. I know there were some sirens this morning, so you've braved the crazy St. Louis weather to be here in Clayton. And I want to thank our sponsors as well that allow us to continue to have free events for you all, Nexon and the Trade Desk. Thank you very much. Got Stuart here, so let's talk to him and introduce yourself. Got to start by just thinking about what 2024 is going to entail, right? This may be the most important year in digital marketing history that, at least that I've seen. There's a convergence of so many things happening on the publisher side, looking at all the layoffs that are happening with the LA Times and Washington Post, with agencies. Surprising to hear White and Kennedy laid off 20% of their staff on an up year for them, right? So the work and the change in the way that we work is completely changed. But there's nothing bigger than what's happening with generative artificial intelligence, right? And I think that's why we all knew when we were looking at the potential areas that we wanted to talk about this year that this had to be the first conversation that we had, was around Gen AI. So without further ado, I want to introduce our panel of experts. Eric Pratum, the CEO and strategist of Bigwidesky here in St. Louis. Thanks for coming. Cindy Spellman, Senior Director of Marketing at Hennessy Digital. And Adam Hallas. Am I pronouncing
Hallas.
Hallas.
Yeah.
That sounds good.
Hallas. I like Hallas. Director of Marketing Analytics at Archtype Consulting. So why don't you guys do a better job of introductions? I can't even say your guys' names, right? Let's start with you, Cindy. Can you introduce yourself and maybe tell us how you're currently using AI in your role?
Hi, good morning. I am Cindy Kerber Spellman. I'm native of St. Louis. I think it's really fitting that some of our best digital community is here on 314 Day. So I was really excited to participate today. Thank you for having me. And before I start, I want to share a quote from one of my favorite Cardinal players, Mike Matheny. At an event one day, he said, "Thank you for coming here with intention." And that hit me like a wow. Wow, I never looked at things that way, but I just want to share that and pay it forward with you. And thank you for coming here with intention, because we had to make sure our bottoms match our top today because we're not on Zoom. We may have been leaving in the middle of a tornado warning. And for some of us, this is the first time seeing this community in a while. So I just want to thank you for coming with intention today. So my background is 20 years in communications, digital media, and technology. I was a part of an innovation group prior to a couple years ago, prior to my current role at a major media company. And right now I'm helping agencies grow. So I'm working with some of the smaller fish and helping them grow their offering. At Hennessy Digital, we have embraced AI. I think from my perspective of marketing, I'm approaching it with a little bit of caution. Test and learn and figure out, but also realize AI is a little bit where Facebook was 20 years ago, 15 years ago. I'm forgetting its birthday, but just 10 years into Facebook, we were thinking, oh, this is big, but we're really just 10 years into Facebook at that time, and there's so many things had changed, and I think we need to approach and realize AI is just starting. It has changed the world in the last 18 months significantly, and we're going to see a lot of tinkering happening, but where it is next year, where it is by the end of this year, where it is in 5 years, is going to be very different than all of us in this room today. At Hennessy Digital, we are embracing AI in a way of encouraging employees to tinker with it, get to know it. We've created a few new products that were never on our roadmap because this opened the door to potential. One of the things we've done, which will change the way, for companies with websites that want to reach multi-language customers, is AI came about, and before you know it, now we have a way with HD Translate that we're able to translate websites almost on the fly. There's still an element of human interaction that goes into it, but we're able to translate websites and not just live above your website, but actually with our engineers, we've developed a way where we take that AI translated content, QA it by humans, but then it also gets indexed on Google. So now not only do you have a website that has translation, all these foreign languages are now being showing up in search results when someone's doing a non-English search. And that's probably the biggest way, one of the most exciting ways. There's a lot we have going on behind the scenes, but when you have engineers on your team which was what this agency had that some of the bigger agencies don't have. When you have engineers on your team, you're actually able to play with some of this stuff and see what sticks and see what doesn't. But I think it's a neat space. I just encourage you, don't forget the importance of human interaction in all of this, because AI is not perfect yet.
I'll echo what Cindy had said about coming with intent, and thank you for putting pants on. I know my wife reminded me to don't forget your pants as you walk out the door. So thank you. My name is Adam Hallas. I work at Archtype Consulting. I'm the Director of Marketing Analytics there, and we do a lot of data infrastructure. So basically from the time you're inputting data from using your marketing channels to setting up your database and cloud infrastructure to the output of BI and analysts on the other side of it. So we do everything in between. And we have a lot of smart data scientists on our side. So we've set up learning models to help facilitate quicker Google ad bidding adjustments. So taking the events that happen on a website, feeding it into a learning model, and having that learning model go through an API back up in the Google Ads to adjust the bids. Now it's I would say in real time, quote unquote, an hour, because you can't break the API, you can shove things in there. But we do a lot of stuff like that. And we also do, looking at a website, I went to my team leader, I was like, there has to be a better way, because I don't want to do this manually. And so we're coming up with a product called robotic process automation. So we can take stuff that people do manually and input it into a database. So like looking at events on a website and logging it and clicking on the buttons, and so that you don't have to do it manually, so you can figure out what's being output of that event and what's the input. So you don't have documentation. We're coming up with different new ways to apply learning models on people's own databases, so they can go promptless instead of having a prompt engineer in-house. So thank you for coming. I've seen a lot of people here that I've worked with in the past. So kudos, and people I went to high school with. So at St. Louis, awesome.
Promptless is going to be interesting, because I'm still figuring out how to put in the prompts myself.
Yeah.
So you're a little bit ahead of us. Go ahead.
Well, as you heard, my name is Pratum. I'm the COO at Bigwidesky, and being someone who's lived here for just over 5 years, thankfully I recognize a couple of faces here in the crowd, so it's nice to see some people that I know, though some of you have known each other for a little bit longer. I'm the COO at a small company, which is not saying much, because when you have a title at a small company, you end up doing anything or everything anyway, right? So when we used to have an office, I was still putting away the dishes in the morning. I was starting the dishwasher at night. I didn't clean the bathroom. We had someone to do that. That's not my thing. I think of, some of the most basic generative AI tools as being a lot like Excel was for me early in my career. Or there's a word of mouth marketing agency in Atlanta called Fizz. If anyone's familiar with Fizz, or Ted Wright, who's the CEO. I remember a year and a half ago, whatever, he was saying that you need to think of generative AI like the air nailer or the nail gun, as most of us know it. Early in the days of the nail gun, there were a lot of carpenters who would say, and his example is in the roofing space, say, "Oh no, you don't want one of those guys that uses the air nailer on your roof, because they're going to go too fast and there's going to be problems, and you're going to be paying me to come do your roof again in like 2 years." Well, over time, the people who figured out how to incorporate the new tools into their tool set were able to get you a roof that is done faster and more cheaply, and it lasts just as long, if not longer. And so despite any problems that you have with a new tool and the learning curve, and you misapply it in certain cases because you have the knowledge of how to use ChatGPT or whatever it is, but you don't really have the wisdom of when and why to use it. The people who go through the rounds of learning are more likely to arrive at that place of wisdom. And we're sort of in a similar place where there are projects where we used to do some consulting work with a client. We'd be there for an hour, 2 hours, whatever it was on one day. And we'd have 24 hours of rush work that we would have to do so that we'd be prepared the next day to show the results. Now the same amount of work that used to take multiple people that next 24 hours takes 3 or 4 hours, just going through a couple of prompts with ChatGPT or whatever it is that we're using. And so as we continue to go through those rounds and figure things out, there's a lot of wasted time. There's a lot of dead ends. But I think that generally for myself and for my company, we are trying to figure out when and why and how to use that nail gun, so to speak.
The nail gun analogy is good. I read an article that showed photos from hundreds of different newspaper clips from the 20s and the 30s and the 40s about automation taking jobs and the fear of technology. So I'll just, I guess, start with the question that seems to be the one that most people have: is AI going to take our jobs? But let's maybe phrase it slightly differently. How do you believe AI will lead to the creation of new jobs, or will it primarily automate existing jobs?
I'm really curious to hear what you both have to say, because you have a very deep use case, but it applies across many industries. In Bigwidesky's case, we say we make business more human, and I do a lot of speaking at conferences talking about company culture and coaching and all that, and people typically interpret the "we make business more human" thing as a sort of stereotypical touchy-feely HR statement. And I will often clarify that your most valuable asset in your business is almost always your people, because people can think analogically, and it would take a person to say chocolate's good and peanut butter's good. I bet they'd be good together. Whereas ChatGPT is going to give you 1,000 things that it doesn't have any idea whether they would be good together or not. And so I think there are definitely places where we're going to squeeze people out, because there are just certain types of jobs that are so repetitive. We don't need people to write regular expressions anymore or whatever it is, but we do need people to have a goal and to say, here's what I want to accomplish, and we need people to check. And we're going to eat away at the lower end of that continually. But there's still something that I see that is just so unique to human beings that, when email came around, did I need somebody answering the phone for me or passing memos around as much as I did just, a year or 5 years before? No. But I think that if we were able to do some sort of, like A/B test with organizations that used email and organizations that didn't, I think we would find that for the most part, the organizations that adopted email grew and hired more people. And I think that generally, we are going to see similar things like that.